Hi, it's Jamie, Progressive's Employee of the Month, 2 months in a row. Leave a message at the... Hi, Jamie. It's me, Jamie. I just had a new idea for our song about the Name Your Price tool. So when it's like, tell us what you want to pay, hey, 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 and the trombone goes, blah, 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 and you say, we'll help you find coverage options to fit your budget. Then we just all do finger snaps while a choir goes, savings coming at ya, savings coming at ya. Yes? No? Maybe? Anyway, see your practice tonight. I got new lyrics for the rap break.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Blog Talk Radio.
Here we go with the main event of the evening. Ladies and gentlemen in attendance, boxing fans joining us around the world. It's time for the bout you've all been waiting for. Finally, it is showtime.
Here, man, we dedicate our life to this sport. We do thousands of sit-ups in camp. We run hundreds of miles, for the ones that take it serious. And we just dedicate ourselves fully to our craft, man. We watch tape. We have attitude. We rooting, and we go into that fight. It's to lay it on the line.
Minnesota basketball fans, the Living in Loserville podcast returns. I am your host, Chris Carlson. My co-host, Aaron Miller, will be joining me very shortly. Well, another episode, another week, and, the title says it all. The title says it all. More losing. Good old Living in Loserville. This is going to be probably our shortest podcast so far this year, I guess you could say. Frankly, there's not a ton to talk about. Obviously, if this is your first time, listening to the podcast, welcome. It's called Living in Loserville. We cover the Timberwolves and the Gophers. And if you are following those teams right now, it can be frustrating, to say the least. I mean, at least the Timberwolves will show you like a glimmer of hope, like they did against a Sacramento team who's technically, pretty damn good this year and above us in the standings. Now, of course, it was followed by a bad loss. But, like I said, there's at least hope. So that's obviously, we're going to kick it off with as much positivity as we can here, guys, with the Timberwolves talk. We'll get in some Gopher talk. We'll review that garbage-ass loss to the Rutgers, We'll talk a little bubble, because that's where we belong. Or do we even belong on the bubble? Should we just take ourselves off the bubble and just ask for an NIT invitation right now? It's just more of the same. Bad shooting from the outside. It's just haunting us. So we'll review, like I said, that garbage game. The Gophers do play Northwestern in about an hour and a half, whereas the Timberwolves are playing right now. So we'll keep you posted with that Timberwolves game, here and there. But yeah, I'm telling you, man, this one's a little tough. This one's a little rough. The way the Timberwolves closed that game, that fourth quarter in overtime against hot Atlanta. Whew, that was pretty ugly. But anyway, we're about to get into this in just a short little bit. Break it all down, discuss it, rant. It's really just a rant podcast now, I think. But if this is your first time listening to the Living in Loserville podcast, it streams live right here on blogtalkradio.com/Rope-A-Dope Radio. So the Living in Loserville podcast is under the umbrella of the Rope-A-Dope Radio podcast, okay? It streams live, it archives. It's basically like the headquarters. So you can find it here. You can also listen to the Living in Loserville podcast under the Rope-A-Dope Radio podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, Player FM is is a very popular site. We get a lot of listens. A lot of people like the setup. So check out Player FM. You can subscribe there. Same with TuneIn. TuneIn, with their app, a lot of times you can stream it on Spotify as well. But TuneIn, a variety of different places. We're also part of the Grueling Truth Sports Podcast Network, okay? Head on over to gruelingtruth.net. That's the gruelingtruth.net. It's basketball, it's football, it's baseball, it's boxing, it's everything in between. And you can check out, like I said, the Living in Loserville podcast under the Grueling Truth Sports Podcast Network. That can be found everywhere. Everywhere. iTunes, Player FM. They got a really good app for Spreaker. And also you can, through TuneIn, I mentioned this as well, but you can check out the show on iHeartRadio and Spotify as well. Head on over to gruelingtruth.net. You can listen to the podcast right there. You can, read an article or two. And while you're at it, you can place a bet right to mybookie.ag. That's mybookie.ag. And real quick, for those out there that have cut the cord, the cable cord, or thinking about it, a couple of things I'm going to talk to you about throughout the show, 2 separate times. Right now, you can start a 7-day free trial of DirecTV Now. Okay, I cut the cable back in August. I cut the cord. I was on DirecTV satellite for like over a decade. Then I was just normal cable before that. It's pretty damn good. I tried YouTube. I tried Hulu Plus. I tried a Sling. I basically gave myself about 5 weeks. Before college football started, I gave myself 5 weeks to figure out what I wanted to do. And I found a home on DirecTV Now. You got packages that start at $40, $55, $65, $75. There's a Spanish package for $45, and that consists of 65 live channels, 85 live channels, 105, 125. So there's a whole lot that you can get right there. If you're thinking about a $55, $65 package, you add HBO if that's what you're into. You can still, through your smart TV, have Amazon. It can have Netflix, and you're still going to be lower than your cable bill right now that you're paying, okay? So it's a pretty damn good deal. Like I said, it's a 7-day free trial, and I tried them all, and this one seems to be the best quality. They're kind of ahead of the game. Now, if you've ever streamed anything for cable, you know that the technology still needs to catch up. But I've noticed it caught up 7 or 8 months that I've been on it for DirecTV Now. So something to think about out there. I don't do just random ads. I do it when it actually fits. And by the way, later in the show, I'm going to tell you about AT&T customer and how it ties in to DirecTV Now. I've been an AT&T customer since my second cell phone. I'm not going to give you the date on that second cell phone because I don't want to date myself and my co-host. But AT&T customers, the DirecTV Now, those prices are really good, right? You can get those. But the AT&T package is even better. I'll tell you that a little bit later. I'm going to shut up for now anyway and bring in my co-host, Aaron. Well, Aaron, how you doing, buddy? Well, it didn't snow today. I mean, that's a positive, right? It didn't snow the last couple of days. Not much new here in Loserville. It's just a bunch of teas is what we're getting right now. How are you feeling, buddy?
I'm doing well. It didn't snow today, but I guess there's some coming tonight. So, there's always that. Stay sure-footed. I've never seen as much snow piled up on the side of the streets as I have. Maybe a few years ago kind of came close, but nothing like this. So we're just kind of fighting our way through winter. So, yeah, I just try to keep it short. Not a lot to talk about. The Wolves are the Wolves, kind of doing what they do, for better or worse, I guess. And in this case of this week, it seems as if that might be for the worse. And then, I'll find out tonight if we're a bubble team or not with the Gophers as they play Northwestern. I think it's a game they should win. They must win. Question is, will they win? And, if they don't, let's punch our ticket for the NIT. How's your week been?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's our tourney. And we're not talking about the NIT in the 70s, folks, when that was the tournament. No, no, no. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the second-rate tourney that you're not supposed to be happy about. And we have success there, lots of it. Snow-wise, good luck beating this February's record, right? I mean, we set the record like a while ago in February, and then it dumped on us again. And then again, you know that last dumping that we got, I didn't think they called a snow emergency because earlier this month it had snowed a couple inches and they didn't call one, and they had just called back-to-back ones. So I thought, I'm good. Yeah, for whatever reason, Aaron, it didn't click to check, and I come out the next day, and sure enough, I got a freaking ticket. I'm like, are you kidding me? I should have known, but it didn't really snow that much, and they hadn't called it earlier, so I thought, oh, I'm in the free. Just goes to show you really gotta check. You gotta make sure. Anyway, like he said, I mean, we're not just gonna bang our head over and over again. Well, yeah, we are. We're doing the show tonight, so. But, you know, this isn't going to be an hour and 20 minutes scintillating, breakdown of the third quarter of that great Sacramento game. No, we talked last Friday, and we had gotten the Knicks win. That's a win you have to have, obviously. The Knicks are just beyond horrible. They're just bad. Now, without Cat, it's not the end of the world to lose to the team that has the best record. That's really not that bad. You know what I mean? We talked about that like, okay, it is what it is. But let's see what we do in the next two games. Let's see. And, Sacramento at home, being that they're improved this year, they're still young, and they're it looks like they're on the up and up as a franchise. Now, I do recall Bagley getting hurt actually last night, so we'll see if that affects them in the future. But I wanted to really pay attention to that game because it's crucial. I mean, it's an important game. It's a must-win. It's at home. I mean, damn near all the home games are must-wins right now. But when you're going against a team that's right above you and you're going to be fighting for that A spot, you got to get the W. Before we get into that, though, 4 games now. Aaron, 4 games, we've given up 140 points or more. I mean, I don't want to date us. You know what I mean? I really don't want to do that. We're not gonna. I don't like to sound like you said it before on a separate episode. I don't want to be the dad saying, "Hey, get off my lawn. There's another path. That's what the sidewalk's for and all that shit." I don't want to do that. I don't want to date us, but. Did you ever think, and maybe this is just me being old-fashioned, me being old school, I actually kind of like the NBA now in the last chunk of years, as long as you watch best versus best. That's what I'm into. But would you ever thought you'd see a day? We're not talking about the Minneapolis Lakers in the Armory, right? We're not talking about did you ever think that you'd in one season, and actually I could probably track it to like 3 months. Did you ever think there'd be 4 games? Season's not over either. 4 games that we gave up 140 points. Even in today's high-scoring NBA, Aaron, 4 times in 1 year, 140 we give up. What kind of ridiculous shit is that?
Oh, man, you're setting me up for a major rant here. It was a good one. I don't know where to begin with this because it's a fairly long and convoluted story about the NBA and how I feel about it. Yeah, I like to watch the NBA when it's best against best, you're right. And the other stuff, it's really kind of hard to watch. I feel like the game has just kind of digressed into, a bunch of dribble drives, some dunks, and three-point shooting. The artistry of the game is kind of gone. Now, I don't want to go off the deep end and depress everybody about the state of the NBA because at times it can be pretty entertaining. But, lack of intensity on defense is really been a problem as we see through The 90s even, there was good defensive teams that prided themselves on defense, teams that actually played defense. And, it seems to me now that in the NBA, it's, we're going to play around for 3 quarters and then see who wins the game in the 4th. And, you and I have talked off the air about, reasons that could be. I mentioned it was the bargaining agreement and guaranteed contracts. You pushed back a little bit on that. It was a pretty nice discussion, but I'm still leaning towards that. I mean, if you got a guaranteed contract and, I think you lose a little incentive to do the little things that you would improve your team and improve yourself as a player. Now, moving on against that, with these Wolves, I don't know if you're feeling it, but I'm starting to feel it, Chris. I'm starting to feel the big numbers from Cat and the losing ball games, much like the Kevin Love era. And, he's had a couple really good games. If you look at his stat line against the Kings, he was 34, 21, and 5. I mean, that's a great stat line, especially for a power forward. And then against the Hawks, he had an even better game, 37, 18, and 3. Now, you beat the Kings, but you lost to the Hawks. And like you said about the Knicks, that you had to win that game. Likewise with the Hawks, you have to win that game. And you have to beat bad teams, Chris, or there's no way of, getting around it. You're a bad team. If you don't beat the bad teams, you're a bad team. Now, I'd like to see, I know Teague's coming back tonight. That gives you a little bit of help, maybe a little bit more depth, allows you to play with the lineup a little bit. But, still waiting on Covington, starting to drag on a little bit more here. We're a week past the All-Star weekend. So we really need to see him back. And, we got a tough stretch of road games coming up. So, you got to look ahead and say, I don't want to see Cat necessarily with 38-point games and a loss for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, December 31st is the last time we've seen Covington on the damn court, dude. That is crazy. It's scary too. I'm still a little worried that it's more of an injury than they're leading on. But you're right. Here we are, almost a week later, and we see him. I guess they are taking him to the G League so he can get a good run or something. I don't fucking know. He's going to the G League for a stint or two, working on hitting curveballs. I fucking guess. I don't fucking know. But because it's only baseball that you go down, and I'm gonna go ahead and work on my screwball. Go down there for about a week and a half. I'll be back up, Coach. Don't worry about it. I'll make sure I ice up my shoulder real nice. You're right though about Cat. And right now, I even wrote this down. It seems like it's Karl Anthony Towns on the island of misfit toys. You know what I mean? It's like, do we have the right blend with them? At times, I really think we do. It's been hard to judge that because, frankly, they've been on the damn sidelines hurt. But you're also right about Cat. Some of these things that come up, and you're like, wow, what a monster game. And we've given him credit for his intensity on defense this year. It has definitely stepped up. Not just the blocked, but just in general. But you're right. I mean, it's a bad one. But, the starters have been just up and down, too. I mean, thank God for this bench. This bench has really helped us out a whole lot, man. And obviously with Rose off the bench, coming off the bench now, too, has been big. But that's Sacramento. How many times have we just started out so damn lethargic, too? I mean, here, I got a little note. It's 25-13 with 3 minutes left in the third. Heading into, I think it was 30-19. And it was like a mix of Tyus and Cat with the bench. That's how they got back in the lead. Or they actually didn't get back in the lead off that. They ended up tying it with like 6 minutes to go. And basically they just kept going once the starters got in. But it was the bench, the mix of the bench and Tyus and Cat that brought us back in that game. And before you know it, we're on an 18-1 run. It's 46-39. Everything's good. I think it was 63-53 at half. The defense had picked up in the second quarter of that Sacramento game. They forced 11 turnovers just in that quarter, and they had 18 points off of those turnovers. I mean, they had 20 points in the paint just in the second alone. They scored 45 or 44 points. It's the fifth highest ever in a quarter. And like you said, here's Cat at half, 24-13. And, he started that quarter hitting a three. So it was like, okay, here we go. But still, though, right? So we pushed it to 13, then it snuck back down, pushed it back up to 13, with 8 minutes left. Cat, what do you know, another theme, gets a foul, his fifth foul. And so he's got to basically get on the bench for a little bit, did come back in. Before you know it, though, it's a 5-point game, and it got as close as 108 to 103 with 3 minutes left. Now, thankfully, they were able to pull away, but even in a solid win, it still is a little shaky down the stretch. But I did like what I saw out of Jones in the starting lineup. He had 16 points, 8 assists. I thought he played pretty damn good. Rose, gave us production. Luol Deng is just giving us production, and I hear it from a variety of sources that, his minutes, not a whole lot of them, right? But just what he's able to accomplish, whether stat-wise or just playing fundamental basketball within the system, and taking the shots when they're there and playing good defense. And it's really kind of, we've already exploited Wiggins, but it really adds on to the layers of, dude, that's 20 minutes right there. If we can get another guy to fill in the other 20-some minutes, I want to trade Wiggins. Let's trade Wiggins, that type of thing. It just makes you go, dude, he only had 8 points and 4 boards, but he was crucial. He was crucial to the game. And then last night is Atlanta. And this is until mid-March or I think it's March 13th or something. We have some games, like you said, some games you have to win. You just have to. But that Atlanta game, we turned right around and we were playing decent. I mean, we were actually leading the game, I think, by 12 or 13. Somewhat later in the third. Atlanta was just kind of, kept their nose down and grinding away. And before you know it, there they are right in the game. And overall, they did improve their shooting a little bit, and ours kind of went down. Got to the line. The Timberwolves got to the line 33 times, but were 23 of 33. That's not a good look. Seems like we had a lot of personal fouls as well. We didn't really turn the ball over much. We had no answer, for the fourth quarter. If you look at the fourth quarter and overtime, it was just sloppy. It was just like, what's going on? 32-23, then 13-5 in overtime. John Collins, who's just a decent player, is nothing really to, nothing to write home about. And Trae Young, who's having a really good, rookie season. And I'm actually happy for him because his second part of last year at Oklahoma, he was getting torched, man. So it's actually kind of nice. Last night Okogie had a good game. He's still kind of trying to find his shooting range. Rose, of course, big off the bench. Tolliver hit a couple of threes. The game was winnable, but it just seemed like at the end of it, in crucial, points of the game, it's just bad possessions, bad turnovers. We just don't – we look like shit in the fourth quarter in overtime. And this is the second loss to Atlanta. I mean, what do you take from that Sacramento game in the positives and then turn right around and have a bad loss to Atlanta when we had enough control of the game to win that game in regulation? Some of the last couple of possessions were just like, dude, that's really the best shot you're going to get?
And, you know, taking a game back before the Kings, and they played well against the Bucks. Now, they lost that game. You know, some unusual characters rose up. I know our guy Taj Gibson played a really strong game, and I'm always a big fan of him. He seems to work hard and play hard. Anytime he sees the court, Rose also played well at 23 points against the Bucks. So, you know, they played well enough to beat the Bucks. They didn't beat the Bucks, but I thought they showed well. Went on to Sacramento, game here at home, and like you said, they kind of teeter-tottered that one and came out with the win. Wiggins with 9 points and 4 rebounds in a win. And then you have the Hawks. Now, they did push that to overtime because Rose took a bad shot, but I think it was the only shot he really could get. Sometimes you wonder why they don't go to Towns, but sometimes it's difficult to get the ball into a front court player at the end of the game. And I don't have a problem with Rose taking the last shot. In fact, I think that's probably one of your better options. He just didn't get a good shot off. And then you go into overtime, and like you said, you get beat 13-5. And, you know, did you give up after Rose missed a shot and just wanted to get it over with? Some of it, I think, is, you know, them playing at home where they, you know, they can't get away with something like they did in overtime against the Hawks on the road, because I don't think the crowd would stand for that. But on the road, you know, I think there's a difference between how they play home and road and how they feel about the consequences home and road. And that's a little bit eerie because we've got the Pacers, the Wizards, and the Pistons all coming up in next week on the road, just one home game against the Thunder. So you think that, you know, you want to see this team make a playoff push. They're 11th, just like they were last week, one game behind the Lakers and 5 games out of the 8th spot. It's doable if you can get it together. But I pointed out the fact that Wiggins had a non-existent game in a win, because Wiggins is really starting to bother me more than usual. You know, he does just enough to keep himself viable, but you know, he stands around and he's not active. And you know, my theory on Wiggins is that both of his parents were pro athletes. His mom did track, and I think his dad played basketball or something like that. And so I think he might have been raised in the environment of, you know, athletics as a job, and, you know, you go to your job and make money, and some days you bring it, and some days you don't. And I'm just trying to, you know, that's my theory. Right. That's my theory, because I can't figure out this guy, and he's sort of the catalyst. If we could have an engaged Wiggins on a regular basis to kind of counteract with Rose and Towns as kind of the 3 for the squad, I think, you know, there'd be no doubt about making the playoffs and possibly going forward. But him being so enigmatic, you know, you want to move him, but we've already had this discussion. Who's going to take him? And especially with this contract and being so early in the contract, there's just not a lot you can do him. So he's sort of an albatross hanging around our necks for this season, next season, and possibly the one after that. So I want to look forward to some possibilities maybe in the draft. You know, if Saunders makes a coaching change, any kind of personnel they can do. But it just kind of seems like you're on the treadmill here with the Timberwolves, and we've been down this road many, many times before.
That is for sure. And if you look at how he bookended February, he started out pretty poorish, 10 points, 4 boards, 12.6 boards, okay? Then, you know, he was actually productive, 23 and 9 boards. 23, 10, and 7. That's triple-double almost with New Orleans. And he was out for a little bit, had 18 and 9. Then, like you said, that 8 and 3. At least he had 5 assists. Even that Milwaukee game, he had 9 boards and 4 assists. But it's still hit or miss with him. And and here we are. I mean, it's 57 and 53 right now. 2 minutes left, a little over 2 minutes left. It's 57-56 now. Sorry. And look at the starting lineup. Now, Wiggins seems like he shot 9 times. He has 9 points. I mean, that's not great. But look at the rest of the starting lineup. 2 points, 2 points, 1. And you have Towns, 26 and 8. The guy's almost got a double-double at half. And then you look at the bench, you go, okay, 7 points there. Tolliver hit a couple threes. 6 points and 7 already from Gibson. They're playing the rookie actually off the bench. So here we are. Same fucking shit. Same team, same shit. Now they're down by 1. How about I just stop because I think I'm jinxing them. No, But as far as the Timberwolves, like you said, I mean, it is pretty scary that we have those road games in the you got a home game? Yeah, against who? Oh, Oklahoma City. Oh, you already beat them twice, so what are the odds that you're going to beat them again? You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, when you look at it, Sunday Washington, on the road Oklahoma, Wednesday at the on the road at Detroit. These are all winnable games. Washington, Detroit, Washington, New York. These are all winnable games. But come in New York, that's a big one. There it is. 3-12 Tuesday. 3-12 Denver, Utah, Houston, Golden State. Little later there, hit Golden State up again. Oh, we got the rematch with Jimmy. It's not looking pretty. Anything else Wolves-oriented before we move on to the other squad in our state?
No, I'm just a little apprehensive about this Northwestern game, Chris. It's a meaningful game. You didn't think it would come down to, one game against Northwestern for kind of all the marbles. Yeah, I mean, you can lose to Northwestern, go ahead and beat Purdue, and, possibly beat Maryland. That would kind of clean up the mess, so to speak. But you got to have this Northwestern game. It's Northwestern. They're, close to the bottom of the Big Ten, and losing, I think I heard today we won one game in the month of February, we being the Golden Gophers. One game in the most pivotal month of a season is college basketball. And we've won one game in that stretch, I think 1-6 out of that. Now, looking at as the season goes, we came out pretty strong in the beginning of the season, looked really good. Then the world found out we didn't have a point guard, and things have gotten a little bit rough from that moment. But you have to beat Northwestern tonight, Chris, or your NCAA tournament hopes sans a loss or a win against Purdue and Maryland. I mean, if you lose tonight, you have to beat both those teams, and you might have to win one in the Big Ten tournament, and that's a tall order. I think it's possible to beat Purdue at home, but that game against Rutgers, you can't have that road or away. Rutgers is an improving program, but the most startling thing about that game was your two scoring leaders were freshmen, the two freshmen that you play.
Right.
Your upperclassmen were checked out, Rick Brer, Murphy, Coffey. I think there's a transition in the team a little bit early. You need to make this in the off season. And I think the young kids are coming up a little quicker and not being matched by the upperclassmen. And that Rutgers game, like the game, well, it wasn't as rough as the first Purdue game because that was just mind-boggling.
Sure.
But this Rutgers game, sort of like that Illinois game, there's a lot of games this year where, you had to win. You were supposed to win, and now we end up a 1-point underdog against Northwestern on the road.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? And you're right, man. That's a great point. Gabe went off. He was 5 of 5 for 3. He tied Andre Holland's record from 2015 or 14, something like that. Of course, he's the only guy that can hit a 3, left and right. It's like, dude, what are you doing? You're picking up your dribble. No, you did it again. You just did it again. Like, what the hell? We somewhere in that first half against Rutgers missed 9 of 10. And you're right, we're 1 of 7. It didn't click all the way there. I'm glad you brought that stat up. 1 of 7 in February. So even if we do finish, 2 of 8, like, big deal. That's ridiculous, dude. And we figured now we got the 2 freshmen, playing great. Shouldn't that be the time where it all blends and it all comes together and they had their little moments of kind of rough play and they've gotten over that freshman hump and they're bringing it on. And Arturo is still lingering with the shoulder injury. You can see it during almost every game. They're kind of looking at it. He takes a little time off and gets back in there. And it's tough, man. I mean, 5 minutes left, under 5 minutes left that game. We're up 57-54. Gabe picks up his 4th ball. Once again, Coffee, I even put a note down there, struggling with the ball. Like picking up the dribble or turning it over. The last part of the game, possessions. Unfortunately, Atura didn't get a shot off there when it was 59-59, but he did turn right around and get a layup. I mean, you're looking at 61-61. Gabe missed a step back three. Still, though, 64-61. Rutgers is up, but you're not out of it at that point, you know. And then obviously, you had Murphy when it was 15 seconds left. We could have hit those free throws, but to see him on the first, you got a senior on the line, Aaron, and you need to hit 3 to tie the game, and the first one doesn't even hit rim. It barely hits the net. It's like, wow, this is really starting to affect everyone here. 35-28 at half, only to get ran out the court 40-29, man. Like you said, Northwestern is a must-win on the road. And then we got Purdue. Now we're in a situation where we have to beat either Purdue at home or on the road at Maryland, unless we want to go on some freaking 3-game winning streak in the Big Ten Conference, which that's going to be tough. I mean, it's rough, man. To be playing this type of basketball at the end, I guess, I don't want to talk about next year. We're not really gonna. But you start to go, okay, man, we got a nice little squad next year because the young guys that are coming back are the ones who's playing hard. Like you said, you have the older guys, especially the 2 seniors, that aren't pulling their weight. Even Murphy is pulling his weight, but not nearly what he's done over these last three years. Before this 4th year, he's still he'll go 2-3 games where he's a beast. Then he'll have an off game. Then he'll get in foul problems. Then he's back and that type of thing. But anything else, I mean, poor shooting. It's completely haunting us, obviously. Horrible possessions down the stretch, as we've talked about the point guard situation. Anything else here, Gopher related? I mean, we're going to have a big segment on the bubble talk or off the bubble talk, like you said, if we don't beat Northwestern. I mean, this is do or die, man. 17-11 now, 8th in the Big Ten, and teams like Ohio State, some teams that were 3-4 games away from us, have now surpassed us, and they're above us in the standings.
Like you mentioned in an earlier podcast, that we thought it was going to be us and Iowa for that 6, maybe 7 spot. And as of right now, maybe 4 hours from now will be different. They mostly have us in as an 11th seed, which I find just fascinating with the way we've played. And, this Northwestern game, Chris, we're not really going to have to talk bubble if they lose this game. I mean, it's lights out. It's, possibly, let's see where we're going to seed in for the NIT. It all depends on sort of what Purdue and Maryland have to play for. I know Purdue's got a lot to play for at the top of the conference with Michigan State pushing them, and then Michigan right behind them. Maryland's right behind Michigan. So, are they going to play hard? More talking about Maryland here. You could pick up a win with a lackadaisical Maryland performance getting ready for the Big Ten tournament. But, I think seeding-wise, we're up against Ohio State in the first round of the Big Ten tournament, and we haven't played them very well this season. So, it could be a quick and early end to the season, possibly tonight. And you're right, next year looks a little bit more promising, but that is next year, and this one's not done yet. If I was more optimistic, I could say that, if you beat Northwestern and you beat Purdue, lose to Maryland, you got a pretty good chance of still keeping that 11th seed, possibly going up to a 10th. But, we're not out of the tournament at this point, but I have to say that losing tonight to Northwestern would surely put us out or very, very close to out of the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I think it would be out. I think you're right. And, we can go off. The bracketology on ESPN has been the most consistent. I don't really know all the way. Like you said, we've been stuck in that, we've been on there in the 11th. as an 11th seed. And hey, I mean, that 6-11 that's pretty good actually. We'll probably get in as a play-in, like 2 11s going head to head. You know what I mean? But that 11 spot when you do play in, it's actually turned out pretty good. There, I found some positivity. All right. So that about wraps it up, sir. That about wraps it up. In the past, we've said we're going to do a short show tonight, and then, we got topics and we just expand and all that. But to be honest with you, they don't deserve it. They don't deserve it. Anything past what we're talking about now is just a waste of air and time and all that good stuff. Anything else, sir, before we get the hell on out of here?
No, I think you stated the situation fairly well.
There we be. Okay, so I did tell you earlier. I did say earlier we were talking about that DirecTV Now. Okay, talking about those packages, which I'll refresh your memory. $40. That's where it starts. The package that's 65 live channels. 55 for 85 live channels. 65, it's called Go Big. You get 105 live channels. And 75 is called Gotta Have It, kind of cheesy. 75, that'll get you $1.25. And like I said, there is a Spanish version that starts at 45 and goes up from there. So that's all fine and dandy, right? Those are good prices. But if you're an AT&T customer, you actually get to lock those prices in for 2 full years. Now, we know inflation is a mother effort, right? We know inflation's coming and everything goes up except our wages, right? So inflation's going to hit. But right now, if you can lock those cheap prices in for 2 years, that's pretty solid. That's a pretty solid deal. So something to think about. Either way, DirecTV Now, those prices stand straight up. But you can lock them in if you're an AT&T customer. And with the AT&T thing, they throw in a Roku. So you get a free Roku. Let's say you got a Roku or Apple TV, something like that you've had for a couple years or maybe 4 or 5 years, and you figure why not update? That's a perfect thing. You get a free Roku with it. So anyway, we're going to get the hell out of here. You guys enjoy the games tonight. Right now it is, halftime, something like that. Who even cares? It's about halftime for the Timberwolves and the Gophers at Northwestern. And they were shook with that Rutgers crowd deep in that game, dude. They were shook. That Big Ten road games are no joke, dude. You have to be on your P's and Q's. You got to dot your I's and cross your T's. Okay, we're going to get out of here. I'm going to shut up. We'll see you next week. Please, Gophers and Timberwolves, please at least play better. All right, we're out of here. You guys take it easy. Peace.
Once you become the world champion, I believe that you feel you have the upper hand. So now, as you fight, let's say you fight 4 or 5 years of...
The Starlight Lounge presents An Evening with the Progressive Box.
Old moon, yeah. That's Hugo, tickling the ivories. He just saved by bundling home and auto with Progressive. Gonna finally buy a ring for that gal of yours, Hugo? Send her my condolences. Hi-oh! This next one's for you, too. There's a burglar in my heart. Thank you.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Discounts not available in all states or situations.